After an offseason of blockbuster trades, drawn-out free agent sagas, and big-money contracts, Pittsburgh has strayed from the Steelers' way in a desperate attempt to stay competitive in the AFC. They're all in for 2025, and the scary truth is, it might actually work. This is why the Pittsburgh Steelers will be Super Bowl contenders in 2025. The only place to start is with the blockbuster trade that went down in what is usually the quietest part of the offseason. On June 30th, 2025, the Pittsburgh Steelers sent their Pro Bowl safety Minkah Fitzpatrick and a 2027 fifth-rounder to Miami in exchange for Jalen Ramsey, Jonnu Smith, and a 2027 seventh-rounder. Before we get into what the Steelers will be receiving, let's look into why they would be willing to let Fitzpatrick go in the first place. Ironically, Minkah was drafted by the Dolphins back in 2018, but was traded to Pittsburgh just a few weeks into his second season. Fitzpatrick immediately became a starter in Pittsburgh, named an All-Pro in his debut season. He went on to earn 2 more first-team All-Pro nods, becoming the highest-paid safety in the league at the time with a new 4-year, $73.6 million deal in 2022. Why is all of this relevant as to why Pittsburgh let him leave? Well, Fitzpatrick had set a high bar for himself in the Steel City, one which he has struggled to match since the 2022 season when he led the league in interceptions. Turnovers had been the most demonstrable way for Fitzpatrick to justify his hefty contract. However, in 2023, he failed to register a single one. In 2024, he was down to just 1 interception and 1 forced fumble. Last season, it wasn't only a lack of turnovers that caused concern, but rather a noticeable drop-off in his performance. According to Steelers Depot, Minkah allowed a career-high 127.6 passer rating and a stunning 78.8% completion rate when targeted. For a player who will be turning 29 this upcoming season, in the penultimate year of his contract, those kinds of numbers don't bode well. Various stalwarts of the Steelers' defense voiced concerns about the effort being put in by some of their teammates, and one particular play in their wildcard round loss to the Ravens left little room for doubt as to whom they were referencing. He's swiftly met by 3-time All-Pro Minkah Fitzpatrick, who can't bring him down. Wallace forced his way to a first down, in a play that raised serious questions around Fitzpatrick's contributions to the Steelers at this point in his career. Heading into the offseason, he was still seen as an important part of this team, but considering his contract situation and declining play, it's not too hard to grasp why the Steelers were happy to move him on for the right price. And boy, did Pittsburgh get a haul for Minkah Fitzpatrick. Let's stick with the defensive side of the ball for now and look into just how dramatically the arrival of Jalen Ramsey changes the Steelers' outlook in 2025. It's no secret that the corner's best years are most likely behind him, but that doesn't mean he won't be a valuable contributor when the season kicks off. Pittsburgh's defense was a top 10 unit in the league last year, with the highest PFF pass rush grade of any team thanks to a staunch defensive front. TJ Watt led the way with his 11.5 sacks, Cam Hayward followed right behind him with 8, while Alex Highsmith and Nick Herbig finished the year with 6 and 5.5 respectively. Of every corner who played 200 or more snaps in Pittsburgh, none of them got above a 57.1 PFF coverage grade. For reference, Jalen Ramsey had a 71.6 coverage grade in 2024, deployed both in the slot and out wide. Not only does the 30-year-old Ramsey offer better production, but he brings with him a wealth of experience at the highest level as well as championship pedigree. Ramsey's versatility will also be an asset for Pittsburgh, as he can help out wherever needed in the secondary. He was reportedly considering a move to safety in order to prolong his career, given the short shelf life of corners, so he could end up being more of a like-for-like replacement for Fitzpatrick than anyone even thought. Jalen Ramsey is much more than his 3 All-Pro and 7 Pro Bowl selections from the past. He will be a difference maker for this defense in the present. Now, it's worth mentioning that one of the main reasons Miami were happy to let Jalen Ramsey go is his contract, which the Steelers took on for $26.6 million this year and are due to pay more than that each year until 2028. It remains to be seen how Omar Khan and the front office will navigate this, especially with TJ Watt's contract extension looming on the horizon. Either way, the move for Ramsey indicates Pittsburgh's intention to win now, which is evident in many of their other signings this offseason. Pittsburgh moved for veteran safety Juan Thornhill and cornerback Darius Slay, both additions that vastly improved the struggling secondary long before Ramsey came into the picture. Thornhill was far from his best during his 2 years in Cleveland, but if he can stay healthy and produce anywhere near the level we saw from him in Kansas City, he'll be a substantial upgrade to the safety depth in Pittsburgh. Slay, on the other hand, proved he can still contribute at the age of 34, helping the Eagles lift a Lombardi back in February. He'll be able to mentor Joey Porter Jr., who the Steelers hope will be a cornerstone of the defense for years to come. Elsewhere, they signed linebacker Malik Harrison to a 2-year deal, who will be a great asset in run defense. But some of Pittsburgh's most exciting moves this offseason actually came in the draft. With their first-round pick, Con and Co took Derek Harmon out of Oregon. Harmon is a tough D tackle, who one NFC scout reportedly said plays like a Raven or a Steeler. Off the tape, he reminds me of a young Cam Hayward, but bigger. The plan seems clear. Have Harmon learn under Hayward in the coming years, and eventually take his place on the roster. For the time being, those two will bully opposing interior lines, and routinely collapse the pocket against the AFC's finest. We'll get onto their third-round pick later in this video, but in the fourth, Pittsburgh took Jack Sawyer out of Ohio State. It was a shock that the edge rusher fell so far in the draft, but Sawyer's production in the Buckeyes' run to the national championship was clear evidence of his game-breaking ability. A relentless, physically tough edge set to learn from TJ Watt? Yeah, this has all the trappings of a perfect Steelers player. But having a strong defense is nothing new for Pittsburgh. It's always been the top priority under Tomlin. Most Steelers fans will be hoping for a more exciting offense than they had in 2024, which brings us to the second half of the Minkah Fitzpatrick haul. Jonnu Smith is coming off a career season in Miami, where he reeled in 884 yards and 8 touchdowns on 88 receptions. With a Pro Bowl now to his name, Smith wanted a contract with the Dolphins worth more than the $4 million per year that he was on, a new deal that would make him one of the best paid tight ends in the league. Miami was looking for ways to cut costs this offseason, hence the decision to move Jonnu as well as Jalen Ramsey in one fell swoop. Turns out, the Pittsburgh Steelers are just about the perfect destination for Jonnu Smith. According to Next Gen Stats, the Steelers led the NFL in snaps in 13 personnel, meaning 1 running back and 3 tight ends, with 163 last season, which was roughly 15% of the time. That's because their offensive coordinator, Arthur Smith, started off as a tight end coach. Funnily enough, Arthur Smith worked with Jonnu Smith in both Tennessee and Atlanta, helping mold him into the star we see today. Upon arriving in Pittsburgh, Jonnu Smith signed a 1-year, $12 million extension, getting him the kind of money he had been holding out for in Miami. He joins a tight end room led by Pat Freiermuth, who also had a standout 2024 season as the Steelers' second leading receiver. These two instantly become one of the top 5 tight end duos in the league, not only for their production in the receiving game, but also their versatility on offense, with Smith in particular having played in wildly different offensive schemes throughout his time in the league. Even tight end 3 Darnell Washington showed improvements in year 2, with all of the physical tools to become a star. For all of his eccentricities, Rodgers is still a proven NFL starter, and unquestionably an upgrade over Russell Wilson and Justin Fields last season. In 2024, Rodgers was a serviceable QB for the Jets, where he actually put up better numbers than he had with the Packers in 2022. Although visibly not at his best following the Achilles tear in 2023, he clearly has something left in the tank. He may be 41, but A-Rod has already admitted that this season will likely be his last. With that added motivation to go out with a bang, there could very easily be something special in store for Pittsburgh in 2025. The rest of the offense will look drastically different as well. On March 13th, the Steelers announced that they had sent their 2nd and 7th round picks in the 2025 draft in exchange for a 6th rounder and Seahawks star wideout DK Metcalf. Across 6 seasons in Seattle, DK was a reliable weapon, never registering less than 900 yards and 5 receiving touchdowns. Much like Jonnu Smith, the Seahawks didn't want to pay DK, who had already requested a trade earlier in the 2024 season. Metcalf will produce, automatically becoming the wide receiver 1 the second he stepped foot in Pittsburgh. However, in May, the club dealt away George Pickens to the Cowboys for picks, leaving them fairly thin at wide receiver beyond DK. Outside of Calvin Austin, nobody else has proven to be a viable backup, but reports coming out of 2025 OTAs suggest that last year's 3rd round pick, Roman Wilson, looks ready to make his mark this season. He missed most of 2024 through injury, but showed great promise at Michigan. Wilson will definitely be a player to watch in 2025. Speaking of college production and third-round picks, Caleb Johnson is one of the most exciting rookies from the 2025 class. He was a consensus All-American thanks to his 1,537 rushing yards and 21 touchdowns with the Iowa Hawkeyes last year. He's already used to suiting up in the black and gold, but he's got big shoes to fill in Pittsburgh following the departure of Najee Harris. Between Caleb Johnson and fan favorite Jalen Warren, they should be able to make up the difference as an exciting 1-2 punch in the Pittsburgh backfield. Beyond Johnson, there were other intriguing arrivals in the draft. D-tackle Yahya Black came in the 5th round for depth, while Will Howard came through in the 6th, ready to learn from Aaron Rodgers. If his apprenticeship goes anything like Jordan Love's, this pick could yield incredible value for the Steelers. In the 7th, more defensive depth arrived in the form of linebacker Carson Bruner and corner Dante Kent. All in all, a very solid draft class in the Steel City, addressing major team needs ahead of a season that will be decisive for Mike Tomlin's legacy. The only drawback with all of these new additions would be the potential for bad locker room chemistry. After all, both Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Rodgers have had their fair share of attitude concerns throughout their illustrious careers. However, if there's one organization, one coach, who has an extremely low tolerance for toxic, diva behavior, it is the Pittsburgh Steelers and Mike Tomlin. Therefore, I don't see this being much of a hindrance. So, in an offseason where they've gone all in on winning now, how good are their prospects actually? Well, Rodgers' footballing mind is still sharp as ever, and with what should be a better offensive line blocking for him than he had in New York, expect him to be less skittish than he was in 2024. With weapons like DK in the pass game and the aforementioned Johnson-Warren duo in the run game, this offense should finally get off the ground in 2025. When it comes to the defense, we're expecting them to be even better than last year, especially if the rookies Harmon and Sawyer get going early. With the automatic upgrades in Slay, Thornhill, and Ramsey, this defense will be truly elite, meaning they should be able to get to the playoffs once again. And who knows? Wouldn't it be perfect for the quarterback who crushed Pittsburgh's Super Bowl dreams back in 2010 to break a 15-year curse and finally take them back to the promised land on his farewell tour? Well, what do you think? Let us know in the comments.